Hi, I'm Michele Saumberfield. Okay, perhaps that was a really strange way to open a video, but let me explain why I did. I feel like no matter what I do, there's going to be people who are going to be pissed off at me for my reincarnation claims. It's like if I dress really conservative and act really cerebral, people say I don't have any sparkle. And then if I try to be just me and wear what I want, people think I'm trying too hard. I can't win, okay? That's just a fact. I can't win. Now, let's talk about why this is. People have notoriety and fame up on a pedestal. It doesn't matter how often you hear that a famous person has declared bankruptcy, has multiple divorces, got fired from the set because they were acting up, had to go to rehab multiple times. It doesn't matter. People still have this idea in their head that fame is the ultimate affirmation that you are worthwhile. Okay? So I think that goes for MARILYN as well. And I think people really misunderstand. If I say my soul is MARILYN's, that in no way means that I think I'm pretty like she was. That in no way means I think I have the same talent she did. That in no way means that whatever she went through is being negated because I'm here now. Okay? It's the same soul continuing its spiritual journey, but each individual lifetime plays a leg, so to say, in that journey. It's kind of like a long distance runner, and maybe there's 4 or 6 legs to the run, and one runner does their best and then hands off the baton to the next runner. And then the next runner has to take it away. And, at any point in time, the team as a whole could fall behind or really remarkably get ahead. Each individual runner in the race matters. So if you have a difficult lifetime, where maybe you mess around with married men, or maybe you have substance abuse problems, or maybe a lot of people don't think you're all that smart until after you die, or whatever, that doesn't mean that when you come back in your next life, that you are expected to do the same things in order to prove that you were who you were before. You're expected to deal with the circumstances you come into, and also, especially if you have actual memories and remember on the forefront of your brain what you went through before, then you're really kind of obligated to yourself. You're self-obligated to improve, to assess situations differently. And so for me, thinking about MARILYN's lifetime, I'm not going to lie, there is, of course, a part of me that thinks, oh, yay, people still remember me, or, oh my gosh, even though I was really messed up, something good came of the things I did. People still remember me. I remember being MARILYN, and I thought that with fame, such as Hollywood fame, I thought you would be remembered by the public for maybe 30 years past your prime. Okay? So to me, it's really shocking to hear people call MARILYN an icon or a legend. It's bizarre to me. Now, this is because I don't just think about photo shoots or affairs. As a matter of fact, I don't remember a lot of things about MARILYN's life, but it's the things I do remember that makes me a believer and makes me know within myself that my soul is MARILYN's. I went on a Brian Weiss site. It was a Facebook site, and there was a gentleman on there. It wasn't Dr. Wise. Am I saying his name right? Wise. Anyway, it was somebody else. But this very nice gentleman was saying, you are given the memories you need in order to deal with your current lifetime. So you won't necessarily have every single memory of MARILYN's, or every single memory of the lifetime before MARILYN's, or every single memory of 5 or 6 lifetimes back. You are going to be given what you need in order to proceed in your current lifetime. Now, I know that seems really disappointing, especially if you think you remember a lifetime where, people know who you were, right? Because everyone wants you to prove you were who you say you were. But I can tell you there have been times I have remembered certain things about MARILYN's lifetime or another lifetime. And it's like the memory is so powerful, it's painful. It's like to the core. I can't even begin to explain it. I was talking to a good friend of mine about how I feel when I remember the feelings that Norma Jean had. And I told her, I said, the best way to describe the despair that I often had was less than empty. It's like when everything is taken out of you and then goes below. It's kind of like when the weather is below zero. It's not just cold, it's bitter cold. Okay, so that's how I would say. I remember some things that were just totally painful, and I do write about them in my book. I write about some memories I have of my mother when I was very little. I've had people argue with me and say, oh, that can't be. I'm sorry, I remember what I remember. I stand by what I say. I remember something I really wish I could prove. I tried to get on a very prestigious talk show a couple different times and actually had a booking agent and a producer contact me. One was in the year, I think it was 2018, and then somebody else in, I think it was early 2020. Yeah, early 2020. They wanted me on the show if I could produce certain things. They wanted to be able to talk to friends and relatives and people who had known me long term, who could vouch for the fact that I've been claiming my soul as MARILYN's for a very long time. Now, I think they wanted some type of proof that this wasn't just a ploy for attention all of a sudden while I'm in my 50s, right? I could not get anybody to even talk to the talk show. I could not get my boyfriend of 17 years to talk to them because he doesn't believe in reincarnation. I can't get my parents or my sister to do it because they're very religious and don't believe in reincarnation. I couldn't get any of my friends to do it because they all say they're too shy to talk to the people out in Los Angeles. I mean, I was asking people, please just talk to them. I was told that the people on the talk show don't even need anyone around me to say they believe that I was MARILYN. They just want someone who can vouch for the fact that I have been talking about this for a few decades, or for at least 10 years. My boyfriend, I've only known him 17 years, but they wanted someone who could vouch for the fact that long term, I believed my soul was MARILYN's. Now, there's many things I go through during my current lifetime, and I hearken back to MARILYN. An example would be, I have always had jobs where I've had to be ultra responsible, like take on a lot more responsibility than normal for one reason or another, and like been worked to death, kind of, okay? But in my mind, I think that is because MARILYN used to show up late on the set. MARILYN had her substance abuse problems and couldn't remember her lines. I feel that I'm, in a sense, atoning during my current lifetime for things that MARILYN fell short in. Okay? I've had situations during my current lifetime where I've fallen for married men a little bit. I had one guy who pretended he was single until I really got to know him, and then all of a sudden he said, "Oh yeah, I've been lying to you. I'm married." I've had certain situations, but I hearken back to Jackie Kennedy and Ethel Kennedy, and I even write in my book about, the inappropriateness of getting involved with somebody who has a significant other. Okay. I know there's a maid, I can't say I remember her, but there's a maid named Lena who had written a book and talked about a lot of negative things about MARILYN, about her sloppiness, about her drunkenness, about her still having a crush on Joe DiMaggio, different things like that. Now I'm going to tackle those issues a little bit in my second book, which is in the process of being published. I talk about MARILYN's mental health. Now, I don't know if anybody here took the time to read the description of my book, because I did make another video earlier today about that. But one of the things I talk about is MARILYN's mental health and her hallucinations. And her hallucinations were not just because she was on drugs. They were something she had during childhood too. And I talk about excuses that I remember making during that lifetime, because it's very easy to feel very worn down. Your mother, has mental issues. Your father doesn't want to claim you. You've had an inconsistent childhood because even though you've had some supportive people, you were going from one home to the next throughout your childhood. You had an inconsistent childhood. So, when I think about Norma Jean and I think about that, it's really hurtful. And I remember also having hallucinations. And you have to understand that MARILYN or Norma Jean lived during a time where there was not all kinds of mental health television programs, books, acknowledgement that maybe you need a different kind of pill for a different diagnosis. It's one thing to be living during a time where people think the solution is either to make you high or knock you out. It's another thing to be living in an era where there are specific diagnostic, abilities and treatments and just an array of awareness for mental health. But you have to understand that MARILYN did not live during a time that was that enlightened. So a lot of my decisions came from a place of feeling basically like I've got nothing left to lose, Now, imagine this. I know not everybody has a family they can go home to, but most people have at least one parent or older siblings or aunts or something that will take them in. Imagine this. Imagine if it was Christmas or Hanukkah or Thanksgiving or your birthday. Imagine not having your parents or siblings who you could go home to, who were calling you and making plans and want to see you on the holidays, who want to see you at that Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, imagine that. I think you have to put yourself in that position to understand where MARILYN was coming from a lot of times. And I remember feeling a lot of times like I was all alone, because you can get married, but that if that marriage doesn't last, you can't go home to mom and dad, and you don't have a bunch of siblings to call up and cry on their shoulders. There isn't a homestead to go home to. And so I think you have to understand that a lot of MARILYN's problems were because of her own mental health, coupled with a very inconsistent childhood and not having that homestead to go home to. Now, I know age 18 is considered adulthood legally, but think about how many people still want to go home. Think about going through maybe college, 4 years of college, and going home to mom and dad for spring break, or going home for one of the holidays, or mom and dad help you move from the dorm room back home or into your first apartment. Or if you get married, mom and dad are there to help you finance your wedding, so you're not dependent on your own income all the time, or being with a husband who provides for you, okay? And you also have to realize if you have a partner who is the bigger provider, they may be more controlling as well. So you take MARILYN, who is very attractive, fortunately, And so even though she worked on her talent and went to the actor's studio and cared about her craft, she still relied a lot on visuals, okay? Think about that. So here you are. You have to understand, during the time that Marilyn lived, I remember being a sex symbol wasn't the great big thing that it is now in terms of being accepted by society. It was kind of like it was shocking and applauded, and you got a lot of attention for it, but there were a lot of people who just looked down on you for it too, and wanted to say, Marilyn wasn't as knowledgeable. Marilyn wasn't as skilled as an actress. Marilyn wasn't this. Marilyn wasn't that. I think a lot of people were very threatened by the idea of a woman who could be both attractive and assured and sexy and sexual and also smart. So there were a lot of people who had a reason to tear me down during that lifetime. Or her down, me down, whatever you want to say. In my book, I kind of flip back and forth between first person and third person, and I say that up front. When I really get into things, it becomes very personal for me. I know I had a baby boy at age 15, and he was taken away from me, and that is true, I did. I remember being older and thinking maybe I could get a detective to help me look him up. But you have to understand, there was no internet at the time, and there was no guarantee that anybody could even find a baby. I mean, I didn't really think, I thought that would be a real long shot. And because the sex symbol image was not considered completely straight across the board respectable, I thought maybe my son would be embarrassed by me. Now, I know I've had people say to me before that they think that Marilyn wasn't involved with the Kennedys, and I'm not even going to get into that. Yes, I was. I remember. I've heard people knock Bobby down and say negative things about him and act as if Marilyn was only interested in Jack. No, that's not true. I remember being interested in Jack first, and then I really got to like Bobby once I got to know him. Bobby actually was more personable and spent more time with me, talking to me. Unfortunately, he was also there in the end. I'm afraid my computer will shut off, so I'm kind of talking fast and I can't go through everything I would like to say. But yeah, Bobby, Edward, and a man with a briefcase showed up in my room the night I died. I write about what happened in my book. I've talked about it many times on the different reincarnation sites, so I don't want to bore people, but let's just say things didn't end well for me. And so the reason I call my book what I do, Marilyn, Not Just Another Girl, is because I remember hearing Edward say to Bobby, "You'll get over her, Bobby. She's just another girl." And the reason the subtitle is The Myth About Sleeping in the Nude is because the newspapers all reported that I was found in the nude. But I was not nude at the beginning of the night. Edward and the man with the briefcase took my white negligee off of me. So one of the things I really wish, and I'm just going to wrap it up after I mention this. I've mentioned it many times before in the past, but I'm afraid my computer will shut off because I only have so much memory on it, and it does very weird things lately. There was an incident when I was a child, Norma Jean, and I was playing with a young boy, and we went into a barn, which we were told not to go into. And I left the barn before he did, and he ended up falling on something sharp, and he died later that day. And one of the reasons I wanted to get on a prominent talk show is I thought if I could get on a talk show that's really well known, that's really well funded, I thought maybe the host could help me somehow do some kind of search and find out who this boy was. I believe I was 6 or so when this happened. So it would have been like around 1932. And the little boy, I believe, was like 2 years younger than I was. We were playing cowboys and bang, bang, pretending to shoot each other. And we ran into the barn, rested a while. I left, and he fell on this sharp thing and got hurt. I call it a barn hook. I don't know what it really is. I have not been able to find anything online that looks like what I remember, because what I remember is really much sharper than any barn hook I've ever been able to find a picture of online. But I have tried and tried and tried. I don't know. It's a very painful situation. I remember feeling very badly about it during my life as Marilyn and not telling anybody about it. And that's one reason why this is something that you aren't going to hear that somebody in the press got wind of, because I felt so much shame. I felt so responsible because I was the one that went in the barn first. And I felt that that little boy would have lived if I had not disobeyed what we were told and if I had not gone in the barn. So I could probably make more videos if people ask more questions. I really am afraid my computer's going to shut off because it does really strange things lately, and I don't want it to shut off mid-sentence. So yes, this is my book. It's mostly about my current life. I do talk about Marilyn, and I do talk about other past lives in this book. And, you know, I think there's a reason that I am not similar to Marilyn during this lifetime. For one, I think it was to try to keep me from going out and doing the same things again. I mean, you think about it, we're living in a day and age where Playboy was a major magazine for many years. There was Penthouse, Hustler, and online porn. So if Marilyn came back as Marilyn, what are the chances I would be posing nude again? You know what I mean? And I think that I came back different because the universe and God and the powers that be were trying to say, you got to do things different this time. And we're going to, you know, put some challenges in your way so you don't repeat things. I also remember during Marilyn's lifetime thinking that I wish I looked more like another actress, like maybe Greta Garbo, for instance, or Joan Fontaine, or even Joan Crawford. That was back before she had a bad reputation and everybody, you know, read the book about Mommy Dearest. But I remember thinking I'd be taken more seriously if I looked different. So I think that is one reason that I came back like this. You know, I look like a school marm. But anyway, I could go on and on, but I really am afraid that my computer's going to shut itself off. I'm not sure if I answered your questions, but, you know, I'm happy to make more videos and answer questions if I can, or even just talk to you and tell you that I can't answer specific questions because I don't have those memories at this time. I think I mostly remember traumas and dying, things that I regretted, kind of like personality quirks, things that I would have to work on in a future lifetime. I do feel that when I died, I know it, I promised myself I would come back pretty quickly and tell people how I really died during my last past life. But I also have to live my current life as Michele, and I have to improve. It's not just about being in Marilyn's shadow or anybody's shadow. And yeah, well, I've been many other people. I remember 15 past lives, and God knows which ones I'm not remembering yet. So there may be some that are really shocking. As far as people saying that they have never lived a famous past life goes, I just want to say that the media has become what it has just in the last, 150 to 200 years, you know, when photography was first invented somewhere in the 1800s. So that has made fame take on a life of its own. But you have to understand, you may have been an inventor. You may have been an artist. You may have been someone who did something fabulous, and there just isn't a picture to prove it. So just because someone isn't famous the way we think of fame today doesn't mean that you didn't do something really amazing during one of your past lives. And you really need to kind of look at things that way, because fame is just, I don't know. It's not the be all and end all. I guess it's like the proof that something happened, but it's kind of like that concept. If a tree falls in a forest, does it still make a sound even if no one's there to hear it? I think it does, right? I think it does. So just because you don't remember at this point in time that your name was ever, up in lights, doesn't mean you didn't live a lifetime that significantly contributed to society or was well known at that time within your community. Fame does not make a person worthwhile. And think about it this way. There are people who work at soup kitchens and feed starving people all the time, and they aren't famous. And what they're doing is amazing. So I think we all need to get out of the mindset that fame makes a person more important, or that fame makes a person automatically corrupt. There's so much more to our souls than being recognized, I don't know, by the media. It's sad. Anyway, have a good evening.